Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'll just give it a minute while everybody logs in, gets their settings all set. I did put some links in the chat, which I'll mention in the introduction, but in case you want to join the mailing list or check out the other events we have scheduled this semester. Okay, looks like everybody's on. So I want to thank you for joining today. My name's Samantha Hooker, and I'm the moderator for today's Eval Café. The Cafe is a longstanding speaker series hosted by the Evaluation Center at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan. The series goal is to encourage a deeper dive into all things evaluation. I've added links, as I've said. You can join our Eval Cafe mailing list and also check out our upcoming schedule in the chat. And we hope you'll join us for future presentations. Before we begin, we do want to take a moment to acknowledge the history of the land we're on. Western Michigan University is located on the ancestral lands of the Three Fires Confederacy, which was historically occupied by the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and we honor their stewardship and connection to the land. Today, we're excited to be joined by our very own Brandon Youker, Director of the Evaluation Lab at Western Michigan University, and lab staff members Simon, Deborah, and Jill. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can enter them in the chat at any time. You can also use the reaction button to raise your hand. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our presenters.
Welcome. Thank you very much for attending today's Evaluation Cafe. My name is Brandon Youker. I am the director of the Evaluation Lab here at Western Michigan University. And today I want to introduce you all a little bit to the Evaluation Lab, as well as hear from three of our lab staff. And so you can hear from their perspective of what it's like to work at the Evaluation Lab. So to start, I want to jump backwards a little bit and talk about how the Evaluation Lab came to be. The executive director of the Evaluation Center, Lori Wingate, a few years back, was thinking about how the Evaluation Center could more strategically and intentionally involve students in the work that we do here at the Evaluation Center. Traditionally, there's just been a few passing doctoral students who kind of loosely affiliated or loosely would be coming through the Evaluation Center, but without any real formal program or any formal training, at least conducted by the Evaluation Center. So Lori was thinking about trying to be more intentional and more systematic about how we here at the Evaluation Center incorporate the wonderful and talented students that we have here at Western Michigan University. Second, Lori noticed that we tended to have we have a very international and national scope of evaluation at the Evaluation Center. However, we had little room or space to for local evaluation for the smaller nonprofits in our community, or for even some of the larger nonprofits in our community. Most of our work tended to focus further geographically than our own kind of hometown. And so that was something that Lori also wanted to address, and that again was the impetus a bit for this Evaluation Lab. So the Evaluation Lab again is housed within the Evaluation Center, which reports to the Vice President for Research and Innovation at Western Michigan. And you can see the man in the center is the Vice President for Research and Innovation, here chatting with a couple of the lab staff. We get funding in kind of three primary ways. The biggest one, or sorry, not the biggest, but the first one is we got startup funding from the Evaluation Center. So the Evaluation Center helped support my salary, as well as many renovations to several offices to make it a conducive space for the lab staff to work. And that included whiteboards, video technology, of course, tables and chairs, coffee machines, etc. The other way that we have gotten, another way we've gotten some money, of course, is we got a small gift both last year and this year from the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. They were gracious in supporting the lab and trying to help train our students in evaluation, but also B, help us keep our costs low and our services affordable for organizations in the Kalamazoo area, particularly those that are more grassroots or smaller organizations. We do have a couple small contracts within the university, mostly not really in evaluation, but more in data collection and analysis support. Of course, our largest way of support right now, though, is going to be the contracts that we have. And here is an example of some of the organizations that we are under contract with, from helping them create logic models to survey design and administration and analyses, to doing focus groups and interviews and pretty much everything in between. So I am the only full-time employee of the evaluation lab, me, the director, but we have 11 student or lab staff, as we call them. And you can see they come from a diverse array of majors, from accountancy to computer science to social work to Spanish and many other degree programs that these lab staff are in. Currently, we have 8 undergraduate students. We have one who is just recently finished her bachelor's. We have a current 1 master's student, and we have one who just recently completed her master's degree. So before I interview the people I brought with me today, Deborah Salmon and Jill, I wanted to hear from a few of the lab staff who've been with us since we started that were unable to attend today. Charlie right now is in Costa Rica, and the other 2 were in classes during the time of this Eval Cafe, but we wanted to hear from them as well. And so they prepared a short video describing what they feel are the big takeaways or impact that the lab has given to them.
Sure. So I think really I think there's the biggest thing I've gotten out of this in terms of like actual work skills, right? Has been just getting the chance to give back to the community and be able to work with community organizations. Especially with our mission as a lab, which is to help serve nonprofits and to help serve like social justice orgs. And I mean, that's really what I'm passionate about, and that's what I want to do with my career, especially when it comes to for me, indigenous people, right? But just in general, historically marginalized groups, and that's what our focus is on. And the lab is giving me actual like concrete skills to be able to, because it's one thing to say that I'm passionate about this, but it's when you actually get concrete skills, like, oh, here's how you help, here's how you perform an evaluation, help improve the services of these organizations, whether it's like data analysis or interviewing, or report writing, any of those skills to actually help take concrete steps toward, empowering these communities has really been awesome for me, I think. I think like a really specific example is with Can Do, who we're working with right now, Can Do Kalamazoo, just because they're an organization that supports people in the community that are trying to start their own business, and it's very grassroots. It focuses on people from poor backgrounds or historically marginalized backgrounds. I think that's really cool because a lot of what I want to do is like indigenous rights activists and stuff is try to help people empower themselves through like entrepreneurship, especially like women and other people from historically marginalized backgrounds. So that's really cool that we've been able to work on that. And then maybe just on a more personal level, I've really enjoyed I guess like the environment here just at work. I mean, I'm always happy to come into work. It's always been cool that way. And it's just I've been able to make a lot of cool friendships through the lab, and Brandon's really awesome. So he's really helped me out, and I feel like he cares about me just like as a person, not just like as an employee. And like I said, I've made a lot of cool friendships here too. So I think on a personal level, I'm benefiting, and then like I think I'm also getting professional skills to help me as I go on into like grad school and into my So that's it.
Okay, thank you so much, Charlie.
Yo, you're good.
Great. Hi, my name is Jasmine Roan. I am a senior here at Western Michigan University and an evaluation lab assistant number 2. At the lab, I would say the most impactful aspect of my experience in working with the lab is the opportunity to be able to push myself in learning new skills like coding and thematic analysis that I've never learned before, as well as being able to write and organize the data that we collect in a manner that is presentable to all the organizations that we assist with. And yeah.
So,
The most impactful aspect of, from my experience at the lab, has definitely been the community aspect and the people that I call team and that I also call my friends. It is, I remember the exact time that I got the offer. It was barely starting my sophomore year, and I was, as an international student, struggling to find new friends and find new connections, establishing my home and my community sense of belonging here in Western. And the lab proposed an opportunity to not only get involved with my local Kalamazoo area, but also have a team that I can rely on and a team that I can grow close to. And I'm happy to say that over the course of the year now that the Eval Lab has been operational, up and running, the relationships I've gathered and the things I can tell them and connect with them at a more deeper level, it is definitely my highlight for the evaluation and what it has brought to me as an international student that was struggling at the time I got the offer.
The panelists of evaluation staff that I have with me, and again, we have Deborah, we have Jill, and we have Simon. I'm going to ask them to start by just introducing themselves, and then I'll come back and ask them some questions that we kind of prepared about their experience at the lab. And of course, I want the people in attendance today to have their questions for both me as well as the lab staff. So let me start and just ask, Deborah, do you want to start us off and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Deborah. I'm currently a senior, soon to graduate this semester. I'm studying social work and political science is my minor. And really, just a little bit about me. I kind of really got into social work and political science because I wanted to find a way to help people, but also I believe that in order to help people, we can't just focus on the individual level. I wanted to go and expand that, like, to understand like how we can help people through policy change and advocating for the right policies. And so that's how I kind of got into that. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
I'm Jill. I'm a recent WU graduate. I was a double major in sociology and nonprofit administration. This upcoming fall, I actually accepted admission into the University of Michigan for their social work programs. A little bit about me. I'm very interested to pursue my MSW for the purpose of empowering women and underserved. I'm sorry, the word just.
Underserved families?
Yeah, underserved families, sorry. Underserved communities, primarily women, LGBTQ and BIPOC women.
Hey, great.
Hi there, my name is Samin. I'm a senior studying majoring in computer science and minoring in business analytics and supply chain management. I'm a senior, so I'm about to graduate in spring 2025. Some things that I am mostly interested in is sports. Growing up, I always wanted to be a soccer player, but like life turned out to be a little different. But I would like to still pursue something similar. And as I was growing up, I was learning that I had a knack for analysis and stuff like that. So I want to be a sports analyst someday. And yeah, that's it.
Good. Thank you all.
And I can try that video now. I'm not going to guarantee it'll work, but here, let's go. I have to share my screen too. Oh. All right, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So we'll keep trying on that video. Thanks for your patience, but let me ask an outlet, whichever one of you feels comfortable starting us off, but tell us a little bit about how your current understanding compares to when you first started Lab a year ago.
I can go ahead and start. And I believe before I started working at the Evaluation Lab, my understanding of evaluation was synonymous with research. And I'm definitely drawn understanding the distinction between the two the further I go into it. You know, especially because, like, you know, when we look at research, we can just pull a statistic, but the hard work that goes into collecting the data and then applying it for real outcomes, I definitely am seeing like the difference in that and like how to utilize evaluation and not just rely, you know, on like the research, because research is part of evaluation, but there's like I feel like evaluation is more broad, like it's a process more so than looking at numbers and drawing conclusions for those.
I can go. I'd say my knowledge on evaluation has grown exponentially within the last year. Before this position, like Deborah was saying, I was kind of using it as like as a research tool than as its own kind of field. I was in a unique position. I took an evaluation class as I was starting this position, so I was able to get two different perspectives of how to learn about evaluation, because just hearing the word evaluation, you can just already come up with a variety of different definitions. So I feel like that I was able to get a lecture-based perspective and hands-on learning.
Yep. For me, when I started out, I used to think of evaluation as like a standardized process, or maybe checking for efficiency or how good something is running. To some extent, that still followed till now the same definition of evaluation, but I understand a lot more about the nuances about things. As my background is a lot about the quantitative stuff, I used to focus way more on that. But across the time and across the year, like learning a lot about this, I've learned a lot of nuances and a lot of like qualitative stuff matter as well. In one of my first eval cafes that I've ever attended, we had a discussion about what a problem is. It doesn't necessarily have to be that day we were talking about, like, let's say, the probability of a woman being sexually harassed inside Western campus is much, much, much lower than, let's say, every day you would hear someone complain about parking. So quantitatively, you would say that parking is a much bigger issue, but it has taught me that you have to deal with how big and every situation is independently dealt rather than just a number out of it.
Thank you. Tell me what's been the most impactful thing that you've experienced at the lab, or what's been the big impact for you?
I would go first this time.
Mhm.
I would say mostly I always like used to sit behind a computer and always like mess with data and stuff like that. So it is nice for me to go out there and work with real people. And it also has humbled me a lot in what kind of analysis or what kind of findings that I find and how I represent them. Before, like when I was doing training data sets at school, when I was going to school, whatever findings I used to get, that's fine, right? But over here, whenever I give a finding or I come up with a conclusion, it will affect some real people's lives. So I have to be very like serious and much like look at it from multiple different views, making sure of whatever I'm giving is okay or correct or not. The significance of my work has like increased like a lot. So that has definitely taught me to be really more responsible and more serious about my life in general.
The most impactful aspect for me is just the hands-on experience with the many nonprofit organizations within the Kalamazoo area. Being a nonprofit administration major, that was really impactful for me to actually be able to work with the outer community and not just stay on campus, because I was able to get an internship on campus for my major, but being able to like kind of go out of my horizons and kind of interact with people that I wouldn't even expect to interact with. I was able to gain so many different perspectives of different nonprofits in general, because you can help people in so many different ways. Like we have been working with business kind of nonprofits to start businesses, and I never would have expected to work with entrepreneurs in this way. So I feel like being exposed to these different nonprofits has really been helpful for me.
Mm. And similar to what they were saying, the people aspect, me being a social worker, you know, I'm about to graduate, so did my internship and everything, also with Evaluation Lab, luckily. But so like we do a lot of, you know, like how do we work with our clients and ensure that, you know, we're advocating for them and things like that. With me working at the Evaluation Lab, I'm seeing what is that like to work with a client, but also what is that like to work for a client for their best outcomes. And I think that was like my greatest takeaway. You know, when we working on a program, we want to make sure, kind of like how he was saying, we want to dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure that whatever we presenting to this organization, our findings and our recommendations, we want to make sure it's in the best interest of, you know, whoever they're serving. And as a social worker and, you know, as a human being, I really like that. And I really like that I can do work that ensures that, yeah.
Great. How has, since you're kind of going along this same kind of thinking, how has working at the lab kind of influenced your thoughts about your career or your future education?
Well, before I started the lab, I really didn't think pursuing anything past an undergrad degree would be even possible, but I've gained so much confidence with my own skill set for career-wise than just purely academics. So being able to consider these options has really been amazing for me, and really understanding that evaluation can be really hand in hand with nonprofits in general, and being able to think about the other possibilities that working with nonprofits I can do with this added experience from evaluation.
Can you say the question one more time? Sorry.
How has it helped influence influenced your thoughts on education or your career?
Yeah, so for me, I definitely see evaluation, especially because I'm more macro focused when it comes to social work. I definitely see evaluation in my future, program evaluation, or something similar to that. Just because, again, like I want to, part of like us going out there and making changes is ensuring that, you know, the system that's already in place, programs are already in place, that they're doing what they are supposed to be doing and serving those how they should be. And I feel like with evaluation, I finally found my tool to help, so to say.
So it has definitely like prepared me very well for the next part of my career or the next part of my life. So let's say it has been like a very good bridge from my school life, where I was just working or like whatever I was working with, to now working with like real people, real data, and practicing that. And side note, this is definitely, at least according to me, a person who has worked like 6 different campus jobs, this is definitely the best campus jobs that I have had, that's for sure. And the other thing is that I don't like studying that much. So I feel much better, or like maybe I might pursue a master's after this. Fingers crossed.
We need to elaborate on that a little bit more, Summit. Like, why is it the best campus job you've ever had?
Okay, so let's say, so I've done, as I said, I've done a lot of jobs. Mostly, I used to feel a little like I didn't feel any importance or significance in what I was doing. It felt like very like, sure, someone else can easily do what I'm doing and it won't affect anything whatsoever. And like, let's say after I've been working this, some other people can actually do what I'm doing, but I feel good about doing the work. I feel like it can definitely impact other people's lives, but more than that, I felt a direct impact in my life that I'm trying to do something for good. All the other campus jobs most generally feel like you are like passing paper, or like I was a manager at the dining center, just making sure that these things are in order. So there's a lot of more administrative stuff. It feels like these are affecting some lives. Now, to what extent, that will be seen in the future, but it really feels nice.
Thank you. How about how has your classroom learning? I mean, you talked a little bit about having an evaluation class that coincide, but tell me about how your classroom learning has prepared you for this kind of work, or has it?
Personally, I don't think so. I really feel like with this job, I learned way more effectively from hands-on learning. I don't think even from my specific evaluation class, I felt like I was not prepared at all. Like I felt like what I was learning sure was useful in a sense, but not to actively be doing evaluation. Just, it was like kind of like a taste of like what evaluation is for people who are not ever going to be in the evaluation field, just to have an idea of what that looks like. But as for my other classes, it was more of just like mentioning evaluation and kind of like a research only kind of light. And it didn't feel like it did justice to what we're actually doing here.
With mine, in my social work classes, I have done, needs-based or strength-based assessments and things like that, but you don't know that you're evaluating. I feel like, understanding, like learning like the philosophy and basically the rules surrounding evaluation, you are able to look at things from a broader and bigger perspective. When I'm in class learning about strength-based assessments, it's a generic scenario usually. With evaluation we working with real humans, and that I feel like kind of like what Simon was saying, that makes you want to, produce the best result, but also we know that there's going to be real outcomes, and I'm able to apply it. So like, I'm not just looking at this person, like they are, just a bio. This is a 38-year-old woman with this and this and this and this. I'm looking at it like, how can this 38-year-old woman be impacted? How can we look at her strengths? And then how can we apply that to the program? And how is she affected by the program and things like that? But having a process that I can follow through with, that's going to have a specific outcome that I'm looking for. Sometimes I didn't even see coming. I think that gives me a better structure when am like in the future completing assessments or, helping an individual.
Can I ask a sub question? So is this the microphone? Oh, sorry. So we're not saying that a 38-year-old woman's old, right?
Oh, that's still young.
Okay. This is
Too close to home.
way too close.
Sorry.
Around you, I like somewhat want to be like, how old do you guys think I am?
Now we know.
Yeah, I just use that as an example because, I would not know how a 38-year-old woman thinks because I'm a 24-year-old woman. So I try to use something that was completely outside of my realm.
Make me feel worse now.
Unimaginable age.
Never mind 42.
I'm scared to say numbers anymore now.
So let me ask just a couple more questions, and we'll take some questions from the audience. But I want to know, kind of maybe on the flip side, what skills do you think you've learned that are transferable back to your classroom or your major or the things that you're studying? Like, are you finding anything that you learn in evaluation that you think will help you in your future degree program or your current degree program? I guess that's what I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are.
I feel like it's really helped my critical thinking a lot. Thinking is not hard, but being able to think about things outside of the box and really understand the process of what evaluation really is. I feel like that has really switched my thinking around and not really thinking about a specific outcome. So I was really like outcome based prior to this, but I'm really trying to not force things anymore and really just trying to actively learn and not for a grade, but actually for understanding.
Yeah, for sure. So all the skills that I have like learned at the lab, be it the quantitative analysis, be it the qualitative, be it report writing or project management, and like some like more others, all of that have been like really useful in all sense actually, because the classes I were doing were very similar. So it helped in those. My future goals are aligned. So hopefully it will help in those. So I don't know, all in all, I had an amazing experience. And I would definitely say that there should be more jobs in Western campus that should be similar to this, but with a lot of hands-on experience. Like not necessarily the same standard, but it should be more hands-on and about learning and doing something out there.
And for me, I kind of think I'll double down on what Jill says, the critical thinking piece again, because like we have to, when we are approaching evaluation, working with real people, we have to look at so many different factors and how those may intersect, how they might not have anything to do with them. So, I definitely feel like I have been strengthened in that ability just to be able to, look at things from many different perspectives. And then also collaborating with different different my teammates. And sometimes we get into arguments about how to settle something. But at the end of the day, that right there is very helpful because we all come from different majors and stuff like that. And everybody on the team is so valuable because even when we have been designing a survey, you know what I'm saying? And we looking like, oh, well, if you were a respondent reading this, how would you read this? How would you interpret this? And then we are bouncing ideas of each other again to make sure that, the survey does what it's supposed to do or is serving what it's supposed to serve. And so, yeah, I just really feel like working with different people from different disciplines also has definitely been helpful. But my critical think, like the way my thinking has changed is definitely the biggest thing. Definitely the biggest thing for me.
I will also add, since we're unable to get that video to play right now, but I do know that we had Charlie and Jasmine and Victor who gave a little kind of video testimonial answering the question, like what's the impact been for them. And I'm just kind of going off a little bit what you said, because for both of them, they talk a lot about, Victor and Charlie spent a lot of time talking about the relationships that they have with you guys, and that being what they think is the big thing that Victor even said he was kind of a lonely, which, before he met people at the lab, and thinks that that's where most of his friend circle now are you guys here. And that was very touching to me to hear as well, to see that it's not just about the work, but about the people that are around. That's pretty awesome. What advice do you have to any other, let's say, undergraduates like yourselves that are thinking about this type of work? Or let's say if there's another evaluation lab out there, what advice would you give to them as they're thinking about this type of stuff?
Being open-minded, I feel like that's the biggest thing because as I was first applying for the job, I was already enrolled in my evaluation class and I thought, oh, what the hey, what can I get from this experience? And I didn't really know what I was really getting myself into at first. And I feel like that's the beauty of the hands-on learning of really being able to articulate what you're getting yourself into. So I feel like it's okay if you don't exactly know what evaluation is, that's fine. You don't have to be scared about not knowing everything before getting into this job.
That's great. Yeah, good.
And one thing I would say is, as you saw the list before, we come from so many different majors. This is the skills that we're learning in evaluation can be applied to so many different things. I just went last summer to the MAE conference. I met a librarian who was an evaluator. And I'm saying that because it really surprised me again, because there's the skills that we're learning here. Are just almost universal, almost any job you can apply these to. And so I feel like even if you don't see evaluation specifically in your future, I feel like you benefit from the skills you're going to learn here. Any employer, will want these skills, critical thinking, being able to we got a data analysis over here, Python, qualitative, being able to write a report. Like it's just so many skills that we're learning here. And I feel like anybody, especially an undergrad, could benefit from it. Yeah.
I would say just do it. So they could take the job, take the opportunity, and then they should, if they're offered any kind of similar work, they should definitely do it. As I have been saying before, that it is one of the best campus jobs that you can do. It helps you grow in a lot of different ways that you weren't really expecting. And obviously there are the expected ways that you are supposed to grow from this job. So definitely, just do it.
Thank you. Let me thank everyone and now open it up to anybody who would like to ask questions for me or any of the wonderful lab staff. And Lori, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I do have a question. So when you're talking to if you had a classmate, so a peer of yours, and say, oh, you work on campus, what do you do? We just preface it by saying like, that's a very hard question for all evaluators to answer, like, so I'm curious how you, like, for real. How do you answer, like, a peer student says, oh, what do you do in your campus job?
Job than you. Just kidding. Yeah, no, so like, let's say, for example, as I said, so campus jobs, a little like, it feels, at least it felt to me being like very trivial or very like meaningless in the tasks that I was doing. I never felt a lot of like passion doing them. So if this job I would explain as a way that, so you get information from a whole lot variety of people, and then you use that information to help them, to evaluate them or to tell them how they're doing and what it is that they can do to improve, or what is it that they can continue on doing it because they're doing good. So basically, to simplistically say, that is what I would say that we do.
And from my own experience, previously working on campus other than this position, is to be honest about the actual workload. With most on-campus jobs, they're kind of known for being able to just do your homework and get kind of paid for it. But we actually make an impactful difference with this position. We are not wasting our time doing like homework during like lab hours. We're actually doing work. And I feel like that's a misconception that with on-campus jobs, and actually like explaining like, oh, project management, working with and evaluating programs in the greater Kalamazoo area. And sure, that's not exactly the best description of like what we're doing here, but you really can't do justice like describing like what we really do.
And for me, I kind of got a spiel. I'm not gonna cap because I've been practicing, you know, but for me, so like whenever somebody asks me, I simply, because like I don't want to have to sit there and explain evaluation to somebody, because you know, again, most people like me think evaluation is synonymous with research. So I tell them, you know, I work at the Evaluation Lab, which the parent company's Evaluation Center, and what we do there is we work with local organizations within the community to evaluate the programs that they are. And when we evaluate those programs, we provide them with recommendations, and we look at the outcome. We present the outcomes from our findings and they look at those and they see where they're doing good or where they can improve at. That's the best way I can explain it.
And as long as I'm just gonna ask my second question. And that is reflecting on the past year or so and thinking about Brandon, so your director's sort of guidance and feedback, because I think we probably have some folks online who are or interested in working with students, undergraduate students on evaluation related work. If you have advice on like what really worked for you in helping to understand the work and do and learn, or on the flip side, what didn't work and where did he have to like course correct?
So I think when it comes to like how Brandon has interacted with us, Brandon, though his title is supervisor, he is also a teacher in a lot of the different ways. And I feel like that, like him being able to have that duality like that has definitely helped us. Because yeah, we need a supervisor, this is a job, right? But this is the first program of its kind like this. So everybody's learning along the way, including Brandon. But having that, like that patience that a teacher has with you has definitely been definitely been helpful. Yeah, and now I might have to come back on the other part of it. But yeah, I definitely feel like that has definitely been very helpful. Like we have like supervised, like I think it's like every other week or every 2 weeks or once a month, we have like supervised meetings individually with him. So we can get direct feedback, you know, from your supervisor, where you have like been doing great at and where we can improve at. Kind of like you're evaluating us. No, I'm not.
Yeah, for me, it was nice. Could you like repeat the question one more time?
So for the benefit of people online who might be interested in working with undergraduates or are on evaluation projects, can you comment on what worked really well for you in terms of Brandon's guidance or supervision, or just like helping you get up to speed on the work?
Right.
Or what didn't work?
Right. So as for things that have definitely worked for me is that the way he interacted with me, and how we think or how we talk about projects, where we have like a lot of openness and creativity to start with, to begin with. We come up with ideas about how to do stuff, where I didn't feel very restricted in being, because when I first joined, I was like a new member, right? So in the beginning, I would have thought, because of all the other jobs that I've done, is like you restrict yourself, you don't really give out a lot of ideas because you are new. But it has really helped me to like open up and share my ideas, and then let's say talk about them, regardless of it being good, bad, or ugly. Okay. And that's for the other part about him supervising us. At least for me, it was one of the best experiences that I've had. It was very nice the way, at least all of my problems that I have found till now, he has like really helped me out with all of it. He advises me on a whole lot of different stuff about life, not necessarily just work. So it was just nice talking to him.
I don't think I have anything more to add. I think y'all pretty much hit the nail on the head on that one.
And let me jump in and say, I think both the what worked and didn't work is a little bit of kind of what you were alluding to, Simon, is that I try to have a collaborative and somewhat laissez-faire, and I want to let you help kind of learn by doing, and sometimes that let us to go down the wrong hole, all of us to kind of go down the wrong hole and then have to course correct together. But I feel like we always did that collaboratively. So sometimes we all chose the wrong path and we all did it together and then found out halfway down the road, like, oh God, we better change this around. This isn't working. But so that I think was probably in some sense both the good and the bad, at least from my perspective.
For me, it wasn't bad, because in like life or anything in general, you can only control the process and never the result. And I liked the process. So regardless of it having a good or bad result, if you can abide by a good process, that is all that you would want to do, or I would want to do.
And I think the reason why it's so hard to answer, like, what was like the negative part of, it's because, like, I said it earlier, it's like he was learning while we were learning. He's learning how to teach undergrads evaluation. And we're learning as undergrads who have never even, except for Jill, apparently, never even had evaluation class. So I definitely think that those moments where, like, we might have got lost or we might have like fallen off the path. Well, as a team, I really feel like, especially because it was as a team, I really feel like those are the bumps and lumps in the roads you got to get through in order to get to the other side. I really feel like we had to go, anything new, you're going to have fall down a couple times. And I definitely think that's what it was. It's not necessarily a lack of anything per se on leadership.
Kind of hard to be critical with your boss sitting here.
Yeah, so now that you all have a little bit of experience as evaluators, is there any experience or sort of task or thing that you would have liked to have done during your time at the lab that you weren't able to, but you think would be like maybe valuable for others in the future? Or it's like the one thing that, oh, gee, I missed out on having a chance to do this. Would really love to have learned it or done this.
I don't know. We've done so much. We've worked directly with clients. We've worked, like, we literally go to the meetings. We interact with the people they serve. We've been there for all the way through the evaluation. We actually went to MAE. I think the only thing that could top that is going to the national one. I think that's the only thing that could top
The
that.
national comes to you, remember, you are the American Evaluation Association.
Oh yeah, we don't have to go. We gotta call her. We got to, because that would be the only thing that would top it. I think my favorite thing was going to the MAE conference. Again, I met people from varying backgrounds there, but also seeing evaluation and work and other ideas and feeding off of there. I think that would be something I would like to do, is like be part of that. Like maybe the lab, like, I don't know if we're ready just yet, but maybe in the future, the lab can present on the topic of like the lab itself, because again, this is part of evaluation, what we're doing here. So maybe that would be something that would be really, really, that would be so cool. Not gonna cap. That would be.
Do for MA. February 7/9.
Yes, we are.
That Friday is.
Okay,
So that's an idea you could do.
Yeah.
we have a question from Lisa online. She said, can we hear a little bit more about the lab, how it is funded, how community organizations become involved, and how the lab engages with other units within the university? So the first one is funding.
Well, the funding, as I said, most of the funding is coming from contracts. Although all of the startup funding came from the evaluation center itself. And then we did get a small but substantial gift from the Kalamazoo Community Foundation, both last year and then again this year. And we are, both Lori and I are always pursuing, working on from small to larger scale grants to try to help support this work. Because we did find out, and here's one of the things I've learned as the director, especially that first year, there is a lot of slow learning that has to happen. And now we are on cruise control, we are doing things pretty efficiently, but that first 6 months, I underestimated probably by 3 times the amount of time it actually took to do things. And so my very first contracts where I'm surely under budgeted because I just had no idea how long and how slow it would be initially, but now I know, and now it's, and we will only have that problem hopefully once, because that was hiring 11 people all at one time and starting them all at one time last year. And now any new people will be coming more as in various small steps.
But the second part is how community organizations get involved.
Yeah, so the primary way most of the organizations have got involved is purely by word of mouth. A little bit before we started, I went out and kind of talked with various organizations, foundations, more as an exploratory type of thing, but also to say, hey, we might be out there, we are out there doing this work, and if you're interested, let me know. So some of that has been how we've been contacted, but most of it has been through word of mouth. We have had one organization contact us, kind of cold call through our webpage, but the vast majority of them are just by word of mouth from others in the community. And it turns out that I personally feel that there is still a very high demand locally for the kind of work that we're doing. And so I have more people calling than we have capacity to take, so.
And I just would add on to that. I mean, I know you said word of mouth and you went out and talked to people, but you really did a lot of that outreach and meeting with people and connecting and following up on people who said, oh, you should talk to so-and-so. You started in May of 23, is that right?
I started probably, the conversations in May, yeah.
And then we opened for business in January of 24. So you did a lot of groundwork.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then let's see, the other part of that question is how the lab engages with other units within the university.
Well, that is a great one. There is no formal thing. In fact, I know Lori and I have talked a little bit more, not only the lab, but even the center, having a way, maybe a little bit more streamlined process for other departments or units within the university to kind of contact us. Because we believe we have things to offer, but as I'm sure all of the audience knows, that we will often get that call a week before some grant reports due and say, we've got $500, what can you get us? And so that's the kind of most contact we've been getting from within the university is more along those lines thus far. But we would like to get a little bit more strategic on maybe how we can help within the university. But we are working with the Lewis Walker Institute here at Western, and we have a meeting this Friday with, Higher Education Justice Involved Initiative on campus as well. So we do also, I should be honest, we do a lot of, might be more like pro bono consulting, because we'll meet with them once or twice, turn out maybe it's not a big project that they even have the resources for, but we can still, I'll happily look at your survey, or sure, I'll read over your grant and what you say about evaluation and that kind of stuff. And I just tend to just do those. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of that.
You see that there might be more. Okay, we got a couple other questions online. Mike says, could you talk a bit more about how you train new students in evaluation? Are there formal training components, or is it more on the job type of training?
So there are small amounts of formal training, and we are talking literally, one of the lab staff who's in the room that's not here right now, Alexia, she and I were talking more about how we are going to make videos for some of these trainings, for some of these more technical things such as merging files on Max QDA or whatever it might be, where it's a little bit more technical. And so we might start making some like Zoom recorded videos for that. We also use Vallejo, which is here at Western, the Evaluation Center as well. And that's an online evaluation training. And we have been graciously been allowed to use that as part of our kind of more formal training. We also have a formal training with research ethics that is a university sponsored. Many of you probably know the CITI ethics training, and they are all required to do that. So we have a few of those, but frankly, the vast majority of the work that we do is on the job, on the spot. Let's sit down and look at it together, figure out what we have to do together training, because often still much of it is very project specific. So I have done little lectures kind of more formally on how do you do qualitative data analysis? And that's great, but then we'll get to an actual project and some of that, what I said, is applicable and some of it isn't. And so we still end up doing a lot of real life on the job training.
And we do have another question from Kathy online. It says, can you talk about some of the specific day-to-day tasks, exercises, or processes you help with and how that has looked or been structured? Some of the things that felt easy to grasp quickly and some things that took more time to wrap your heads around. So this sounds like it's more for the lab employees to respond to things. So you get the question?
Can you say it one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so some of the things you're working on, so what's been like structured and easy to grasp and some things that were more challenging to kind of get the hang of.
Personally, for me, anything statistics related was a real hump to get over when first entering this role, but I feel like I've been able to understand what really working with data actually means, and it's not just, oh, a string of numbers, what do I do with this? It's responses to questions from surveys and how to analyze those effectively and what it actually means. So for me, I feel like that was kind of a harder thing to kind of grasp at first, but everything else that we kind of do, like after doing an analysis and kind of writing up kind of like our own findings and being able to make our own interpretations as a group and what we think from that has came easier for me to like write out what we have been doing a lot more than doing like straight up statistics kind of data.
For me, I think it's more so like I don't even know how to put it, but it's so if I'm writing a report, I could write a report off of all this data I got. But also I have to include I have to make sure that whoever's reading this report, it is written in a way that they are receiving the information that is appropriate. And I don't know necessarily how to articulate it, but like when it comes down to it, it's more so about how to apply these things. I could learn how to do something. I could learn how to read a statistic, but how do I apply it? So it's more so that I think that's the harder part. And like Brandon will sit here and, he'll give us examples or he'll give us like he pull out that whiteboard, he about to, go crazy with the whiteboard marker. I'm gonna get a full lesson, okay? An informal lesson, but a full lesson on whatever we just asked about. And so I feel like those are the things that are harder to understand. And it's because it's harder to, it's easy to write a report, but it's harder to understand the principles behind it. Like when I'm writing a report, our recommendations, for instance, these recommendations not supposed to sound like this is what you should or this is what you need to be doing. These are things that we found that could improve this for you. And it needs to be worded like that because we don't want to put ideas in their head or anything like that. So I think it's definitely like the more intangible aspects of evaluation.
Yeah, I think like they have said about the do's and don'ts, but so that's about the question was also about day-to-day tasks that we do. So it depends on what project we're working on. If the project is based it is like IK 2035, it is a lot about like gathering data. So we first have to do a lot of data entry, and then we'll have to do analysis on what data that we have entered. right? If it is quantitative data, so we do quantitative analysis. If it's qualitative data, then we use Max UDA to do the qualitative analysis, and then we bring it out all in a report. As for something that it was easy for me to get was the analysis part of the thing. It was much easier for me to grasp rather than the later part where now this is what the analyzed data says. Now, what recommendations or what do you want to say or how much you want to emphasize on what you have found out? Because a lot of analysis can be kind of like it can have like two sides to a coin where it can both or like it can have like a lot of hidden meanings under hidden meanings. So it's like I don't know, so it's like to find the tree within a forest of like what it is that we actually need to present.
Other questions from the room or online?
I would like to add on though, because when it comes to our day-to-day, I also think it's important that you know, especially if you are working with other undergrads, we could have 2 to 3 like projects running at the same time. So it's not like all of us are sitting there analyzing one set of data. We have an IK 2035 team, we got a Can Do team, we got a Hub 1 team, we got a team for every project. And all of us could be on that team. Some of us could be on that team. It's more so about what is at the highest priority right now. So like right now we're writing me and about 4 or 5 other people on the team right now are taking turns writing a report. And by writing a report, it's not like we all just sitting there typing on a report. You know, somebody could be working on entering data for another project while I'm filling in this portion of the report. This person could be analyzing this while, you know, this person is over here entering data over here. So it's definitely a lot of dynamics going into it. It's not, that's why it was kind of harder for us to answer, I think, is because it's not just like one simple task at any given time. In any day, I could go through 3 or 4 tasks. I could be writing a report. I could be creating graphs. I could be, you know, there's just like a lot that I could be doing in one day.
And it changes every day.
Yes, the favorite part.
Nothing is consistent besides the fact that we have a stream of things coming in.
Yeah.
And that I'll come in and probably ruin whatever you had planned for the day with my new demand. Yeah.
I kind of want to follow up on a question Brandon asked earlier. He asked, have you taken anything that you've learned at the lab back into your classrooms? So I want to ask that in a more specific way, and it's okay if the answer is no. But has there ever been a point when you've been in class and said, oh, actually at my job at the evaluation lab, we had this situation where whatever, and I know we've got other, Alexia's nodding her head. You can.
Cece.
Yeah, so Alexia, you can't see, is in the room, but she also works at the lab. So do you want to share?
I was just going to mention, it was really odd. So I haven't worked at the evaluation lab long. Like I just started this semester. And so it was funny that you mentioned that because we were just doing interviews and conducting interviews and how to formulate different questions for it. And they were talking about like open-ended questions and making sure you leave them, like you don't guide them in any certain way when you're interviewing people to get accurate data. And so like that happened when we were developing questions for our interviews that we had to do inside our classes. And I already had that experience working with like specific projects here. So I thought it was like a convenient like correlation. But
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
What about you?
Yeah, for sure. So it does happen to me. So it happened to me both ways, where because I've been like working over here for a year now. So in some classes where I was doing it, I was like, oh, I just did the same thing a few days ago at the lab. And it was like, I did something in class and then a few days later, oh, I just did this a few days ago at the class. So for me, my experience was pretty seamless. And a lot of the things that I did at class, which was like a lot of the training data, over here, I'm just working with real data. But a lot of the tasks that I did was similar. But over here, I definitely got to expand more on what I learned on class and go into more depths of what can be possible or what can be done, for sure.
I think I had one specific class where we had this, and this was at the beginning of when we started working here last year of January. One of the first things that we had learned about, which was one of our first formal teachings by Brandon, was positionality. And what a coincidence in my class, we had literally had an assignment where I had to state my positionality and how that may affect me as a social worker. So definitely a lot of the principles of evaluation tie in with like my actual like career and like the work I've did in my courses. And also I took this for an internship, so it tied in directly for me. It tied in directly.
Like I said before, I did take an evaluation class simultaneously as I was learning this job. And I know specifically a little overlap that I kind of experienced was like learning about logic models. And I was really, really frustrated about how I was being learned about or being taught about logic models in a classroom setting in comparison to being in this job and being told what really goes into a logic model. So I feel like that was a bit different for me. I feel like I couldn't really use any knowledge that I learned here yet because we were still actively learning, but I was also learning about logic models in a very different way than what we were doing at the time here. So it's a very weird for me what that kind of connection was.
Your thoughts or questions?
Okay, it looks like we've got them all answered. Thank you so much. You all did a great job. I appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and put those links in the chat again in case you weren't here when we first started. But if you want to register for our mailing list to hear about future eval cafes or see what we have coming up this semester, we'd love that. So anyways, thank you all for joining us. We hope you'll join us for our next cafe presentation. That's going to be on Wednesday, February 12th. At that one, it features Daniela Schroeder, Lissa Wilson-Betcho, and Bianca Montrose-Moorhead, and they're going to discuss navigating the garden of evaluation approaches. And I hope that you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.